Hey everybody, it's John and welcome to another installment of LearnUbot.com tutorials. Today we are sticking with the version 4 theme, and I wanted to provide something a little more practical and useful for you, so I figured we could do a complete walkthrough of a Hotmail account creation. And the reason I chose this is because it has a couple of requirements here that you can do some neat things with Ubot 4. So in looking at the page, you can see we're going to get an address, we're going to create a password, alternate email address, first name, last name, country, state, and zip, and gender, and birth year. So it all seems pretty straightforward. Ubot 3.5, this particular page would have posed a couple of small obstacles, but they no longer exist in version 4, so we can go through those. So let's just jump right in. Obviously the first thing we want to do is navigate to the page. Okay, so one of the things that is spillover from version 3.5 is the old create account command, and I don't remember where everything is now. You get used to one and off it goes to another. Here it is, reset account. This replaces the create account command, and this time we have an added parameter. It used to be just male or female. Now you can have any, and what that means is it will randomly choose one, which is really cool because there's a couple of new features that allow us to do this in version 4. Okay, so I want to reset the account so every time I run it, I get a new username, new name, because I'm going to use all account data to fill this form. So our first form field is going to be the Hotmail address, and as I typically do when I make these, is I create one using the username account data function. So we just go into the drop down and we're going to choose username and click OK. We're going to do the same thing for the password. Drag in some account data, choose password. Let's retype our password. Okay, now alternate email address, you can do whatever you want with that. Here's what I typically do. I'm going to take the username that I'm using for the account, and from there I'll use one of the free email sites. So it'll be whatever the username is at melanator.com, and that'll be fine. Okay, so now here's where we get to our first neat little trick. First name. We have no idea whether this is going to choose, based on the reset account, whether it's going to choose a male or a female account, but it is going to be determined by the first name. So when I choose the first name, what I'm going to do next is I am going to set a variable, and this variable, we'll call it gender. I am simply going to ask Ubot to supply me with the gender it chose, which is in the account data list. This is good stuff. Now, of particular importance here is you have two options with gender, male and female, but it's a capital M and a capital F is the way they're stored. So we can go ahead, let's put a last name in. You'll see why that's important. Last name. Hit OK. Let me do it now. Okay, so you have the gender male and female, and the way we're going to handle that is if, and we're going to use a condition, and we're going to compare. Our first value is going to be if our gender equals male, then click the male radio button. Else, click the female. It's just that simple. And it's going to know which one to do. Okay, so let's go back to zip code, because we're going to do this exactly the same way. I'm going to fill the zip code, and I'm going to allow Ubot to choose the zip code for me. I'm going to click OK. Then I'm going to go back and I'm going to set a variable called state. And again, because it's already picked the zip code, it's going to match the state to it internally. So it's going to know right away. So regardless of what it picks, now I have to remember how I do this because these are based on codes. Okay, in any event, let's move on and we'll figure that out later. Birthday field. Now here's what I'm going to do with the birthday field. It just wants a year. So I'm just going to let it randomly choose a year somewhere between, say, 1940 and 1990. Click OK. OK. Alright, so let's run it and see where we're at so far. Okay, so you can see it says Ella, which is likely to be a female name. It chose female, 1948, and it chose a zip code of 10130. Now, if we go up into our debugger and look under state, you see gender, it tells us that it chose female, and state, it says it chose New York. So, oops. We can actually look that up. Manhattan, New York. So as you can see, it got the state right. And I apologize, I think I have to open my other bot because I've already made this once and I forget how I choose that. But you know what, let's just try. Let me just try and see if I can have it type the text. Let's see if that works. Yeah, actually it does work. Okay, so that's all. Because it already chose the state now, it is matching the zip code to the state. Okay, so what we can do now is let's run it again. And as you can see, we got Megan, which I'm going to bet is female, and the zip code 23691. is Yorktown, Virginia. And Virginia, it chose Virginia. So you can see there's a lot fewer steps, and you can match account data to each other if you set it up properly. Let's see, Demon, and see we have our mailinator email address, and we have a birth year of 1985. Okay, so the last thing we need is to solve the CAPTCHA. And you do this a little differently. I know you're used to choosing the image and then decoding chosen CAPTCHA and decode options and all that. That's not how you do it now. The way you do it is you drag the solution field into the scripting area, and the text to type now is under browser functions. It's going to be solve CAPTCHA. Now it's going to ask you for the CAPTCHA element. I'm simply going to choose the element selector, and on the image, and it actually has an ID, HIPR image, which looks pretty unique to me, so that's pretty cool. Okay, so let's give it a run. Oh, before we do, so how's it going to solve this CAPTCHA? Well, here's the cool thing. We have 3 integrated services. We have decapture, bypass CAPTCHA, and death by CAPTCHA are the 3 integrated services in Ubot version 4. And what's really neat, and the manual option is still there as well, but what's really neat is you can now set them up in your CAPTCHA service accounts, and it'll tell you how many credits you have for each one when you put your credentials in, as you can see. And then you can choose, if I were to check them all, it's going to go to the first one on the list. So if I just run this now, that image will be sent to death by CAPTCHA automatically. If I uncheck them all, I'm going to get a manual. And let's see how that works. Make sure I finished it. Yes. Okay, so now when I run it, I should get a manual CAPTCHA solving window. And there it is. But if I go back into my tools and I check, let's do bypass CAPTCHA. We'll use my third one. If I check that, and of course it's illegible, so I'll probably get. But you see, it already returned the answer, and it solved it automatically. And that's it. There's a few really neat tricks in there. I hope that was really helpful when you start using version 4 to create your bots, especially account creations. Using the new account data is just so much easier now, and it's much more efficient because you can tie certain account data elements together and have them, create a coherent profile, for lack of a better word. But that's it. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and we will see you next time on LearnUbot.com. Thanks for watching.